in isolation. We have to really look at it in the context of our whole life. And sometimes people do want to sort of bypass all the other things and just, oh, it's just this anxiety, it's the only thing I want to sort out. So, but we do need to consider lifestyle. Now, we have to, when I see a client, I do touch on these things. Many of these are not my areas of particular expertise, but it's just worth getting a feel for whether any of these factors might be significant. So diet can be important for some people. If we're eating a very poor diet, lots of fast food and junk food, if you like, that causes blood sugar dips and spikes, and that doesn't help us maintain an even keel emotionally. So that's worth considering. Caffeine. Now, I'm a bit of a caffeine fiend myself. But I think we have to limit it. So I try to limit it to 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day. But yeah, sometimes I speak to people and say, well, you know, about 12 cups of coffee or 12 cups of tea, which also has a lot of caffeine. So if you're drinking lots of caffeine, you're going to be a bit hyped up, and that is only going to exacerbate anxiety. I mean, it's not usually the root cause, but it's something that may well not be helping you. Another thing, nicotine. So nicotine, people, I have helped a lot of people stop smoking, actually. A lot of people used to say to me, well, nicotine relaxes me. Nicotine doesn't, it's a stimulant. And actually, if you look at the research, smokers are more prone to anxiety than non-smokers. And now that there's a whole story behind that, and it's quite a long story, so I won't go into it in too much detail. But you know, if you're smoking, ingesting nicotine, vaping can cause an awful lot of anxiety for people because a person may be sucking on the vape. I forget what they call those things. The vape, whatever those things are, e-cigarettes. That's right. Maybe sucking on that from dawn till dusk and not really realizing how much they're taking in, because at least with cigarettes, you know when you've finished one, so you can count them. So nicotine is a stimulant, and it does cause people to feel very jittery and edgy. So that won't be helping. So another thing is exercise. Are you doing any exercise? Exercise is very good. It helps to balance the brain, helps to burn off any stress chemicals, any adrenaline that's hanging around, cortisol, those sorts of stress chemicals that are hanging around in the body. But what I would say is, obviously, if you're thinking of starting exercise, you need to check with your doctor, etc. But is to think about what sort of exercise you're doing. Because if you are suffering with anxiety, it may be that, well, almost certainly, if it's quite prevalent in your life, it may well be that you're in a state of stress arousal. Your alarm system is kind of buzzing away in the background a lot of the time. And if you engage in very heavy exercise, then that can put you into even more of a stress response, because it's another stress on the body. So I know high intensity training is a bit of a buzzword, but think a little bit carefully about that if you're an anxiety sufferer. Some moderate walking, or even quite fast-paced walking, is a pretty good thing to do for longer periods. 30 minutes or so, that's quite a good thing to do. Also, weight training is, I used to be really interested in weight training into it. Still do a little bit, but if you do an awful lot of that, particularly if you're training to failure, then that's can be a big stress on your body and can add to anxiety. Alcohol. Now, alcohol is very socially acceptable. Interestingly, if somebody says, "Oh, I'm not drinking tonight," everybody sort of looks at, "What's the matter?" It's strange that it's almost frowned upon not to drink alcohol, but then if somebody's getting absolutely smashed all the time, then people also raise their eyebrows. So again, that's another whole topic, but the thing with alcohol is the day after, particularly if you overdo it, your anxiety will be worse. It does affect your sleep, so you don't go into deep sleep cycles. And it can be another one of these vicious circles or vicious cycles where you've had a really stressful day and you've had a lot of anxiety. and you sort of flop down on the sofa and, oh, I'm going to open a bottle of wine. And okay, that might just help. It's a central nervous system relaxant, isn't it? Alcohol, but you'll pay it back in the morning when you wake up. You won't have slept soundly, and it sort of goes on. And also, you develop tolerance, so that one bottle a night then can become 2 bottles a night. In fact, alcoholism, anxiety is a massive factor. The person often is drinking to dampen down their anxiety, and they're in that cycle of drinking to relax and then feeling more anxious and then drinking to try to relax, and it can get into a terrible mess. Sleep is important. Now, one thing with anxiety, it can affect your sleep. If you're one of the people who's waking at sort of 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning and not able to get back to sleep, that isn't really going to help your anxiety. But I do understand it's a bit of a chicken and the egg thing, that perhaps you're trying to sleep, but you're having a really bad night, so you wake up tired, and you haven't, your brain hasn't had that chance to sort of process everything. So you might feel more anxious and feel edgy and that kind of thing. But I would urge people to do everything they can to give themselves a chance to get enough sleep, because lack of sleep, people pushing themselves, working too long hours, that is going to contribute to worsening your anxiety. So on the positive side, another thing to consider is, do you factor into your life opportunities to relax and enjoy yourself? So that could be anything that you find relaxing or enjoyable. Do you have any hobbies? Do you hang out with friends? Do you make that time to do things you enjoy, to relax, perhaps even doing something creative? I know everybody's so busy nowadays, rushing around. It might seem like a luxury, but it's an important component of a healthy lifestyle to have some relaxation and enjoyment. Also, relationship. Are you in a relationship? Are you happy? Do you feel fulfilled? If you're not comfortable in your relationship, and the stress in the home, of course, that can only add to somebody's anxiety and often can be a big factor. Also, career. Are you doing something that you enjoy, that you feel cut out for, that you feel has a meaning to you? Now, I know in the present climate, everybody has to earn a living, and some of us may find ourselves doing things that we perhaps don't relish. But, can we make the best of it? And can we try and be a good colleague, have fun with our colleagues, and try and, whatever the job is, try and do it well, and try and gain some sort of sense of satisfaction from our work. And are you doing something that you're really not cut out for? That's also something worth considering. If that's the case, we spend a lot of our time at work, don't we? Is there a way around this? Is there something else that we might prefer to do and be able to swap to? So those are all what I call the low-hanging fruit. Some of those can be very significant in a person's anxiety, and several of them are sort of contributory factors that